Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Fuel for Success. This is our 52nd episode, and I'm excited. I'm here with my good friend David Fuller. As you know, every Thursday morning we talk about business development, entrepreneurship, and David is an entrepreneur, definitely. And so we're going to talk to him a little bit, interview him. We're here in his shop. We're on location in Shakopee, Minnesota, at Art King's Welding and Fabrication. And David does a lot of cool stuff. I'm going to have him talk about that a little bit. And want to make sure, first of all, can everybody hear me all right? Is the audio coming through okay? We're, again, set up on location. So if you just type yes, that'd be awesome. It's great to see everybody. How you doing this morning, David?
I'm good. Yourself?
I'm good. I'm good. It's a little bit loud in here, so make sure you speak up. But David, a couple of questions. You know, I've known you for a long time. We hunt together, we fish together, we go to church together, and you've done a lot of different things. You're a very talented guy. And I want to kind of start out but can you just kind of give everybody a little bit of background about what the shop is all about and sort of some of the things that you do here?
Well, we just started this program because there was nobody in the upper Midwest that can build you a boat from scratch, or that will take the time to build it from nothing to what it could be. Most of our customers bring in a hand drawing of something they want made, a boat or an ice house or whatever, and we'll make it absolutely from scratch. Whereas there's no other manufacturer in the upper Midwest that'll do that for you. And that's why, basically, seeing the gap in the market there, that's why I decided to go ahead and jump into that and get started. And it's turned out to be really, really well targeted. It's because it's such a targeted niche market. It's really easy to market to the people, and you know exactly what they're looking for. Our actual conversion rates from leads to purchases is really high because of how targeted the marketing is, and that's a good thing when it comes to pulling people through the door.
That's good. And for our viewers, it may seem a little funny for us to be sitting in a shop with we're a welding shop. You might actually see our breath here occasionally. Because it is Minnesota and it's cold, and to hear my friend David talk about converting leads to sales and those sort of things, but it's important, isn't it?
That's important. If you can't turn a lead into a sale, you die on the vine.
Right.
Period. If you can't bring your conversion rates up, you're never going to go anywhere.
Good. Hey, let me ask you this question, and I know you've done some construction in the past. You've done some other kind of work. You were doing some real estate things for a while, and I know you. I know you, I've known you for years, and I know your passions. And so, can you speak a little bit about how this plays into your passions for life and the things that you like to do?
Yeah, absolutely. The first time as a kid I got in a boat on the water, it was just amazing. I loved the craft. I loved everything about it. But then once I saw somebody on some show that had a custom boat building shop, and it just drew me right in. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Then once I learned how to weld, once I got my certifications, I was like, look, there's something I need to put together here, and I just went ahead and started it up, and it's just been awesome ever since. And it's just the passion to take something from a customer's hand drawing, turn it into a boat, and see the fire in their eyes when they see what it looks like, that I got what they tried to put down on paper. They didn't think they did a good enough job, but then when I turned the boat into them, and we have a customer come today to look at his boat, he's so excited.
There's a boat right behind me here that's in process, that's being welded up, and it's solid. It's built well, let me tell you.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Well built is for sure. And just having that customer be able to come in and say, wow, I really didn't think you could do it quite like that. At first, they're a little hesitant to just sign up and get you to build something, but once they do, and they come to turn around and they see the product that I put out, they're just blown away. And that's where the real passion comes from, being able to see that in a customer.
That's good. Hey, a lot of our viewers that watch on Thursdays, especially, and they're interested in business development. They're interested in maybe starting a business, or they're considering it. And one of the questions we get is, how do you find your passion? Because let me ask you this. I mean, you're building like custom duck boats and fishing stuff.
Right.
You're talking about bow fishing, add-ons, and all kinds of things of that nature. You're an outdoorsman.
Right.
What's it like to get up in the morning and go to work when you're building duck boats as a duck hunter, for example?
It's awesome. It's a passion. Even when the nights you don't get much sleep, you can kind of go, wake up in the morning and you just have that drive because you know when you get to work, it's like being able to tinker for a living. It's like being able to just design things however you want for a living to make. It's the coolest Passover. And I firmly believe that if you're passionate, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And it's all about going to work and doing something you like to do. That's where it's at for me.
Right. Now, I would caveat that by saying that you are a hard worker, anyways, right? So how long ago? Just for a little background, how long ago did you move into the shop? Did you start?
We're at 8 months right now, so we're approaching a year here fairly soon.
So you're still under a year.
Right.
You are definitely still in startup mode.
Oh, yes, yeah, absolutely. It's you ask my wife we're in serious startup mode.
I'm glad you brought that up because that actually segues me into my next question. Now, you have 3 kids.
Yep.
And you have beautiful families, married, has 3 young kids. Mila's what, she's 5?
6.
She's 6, she's your oldest.
6, 4, and 7 months.
6, 4, and your little boy's 7 months old. Let's just be real for a second. Has that caused any difficulties for you being in a startup?
Absolutely. Working, we got a guy who comes in late, and he's our most experienced welder, so I end up working late now. I went 2 days without getting to see Mila this week, and as a father, that is hard. But last night we got home, and my wife kept him up for an extra half hour just so I could give him a hug and say hi. And it can be tough on anybody, but as long as you don't forget to take time out on the weekends and just give that initial hug in the morning and make sure that people know that they're still the most important part of your life. And then just kind of make sure that they are included in what's going on. They know what's going on. They know why you're at work. They know what you're doing. Mila understands I need to be at work so she can be in the house. She understands that already at 6 years old because I've trained her to know that it's even though Daddy can't be here all the time, Daddy's doing this because I want to provide for you. And she's already understanding that at 6 years old because I'm putting that time into her and not neglecting her.
That's actually a powerful leadership principle right there, because what you're talking about is your kids, even as young as they are, you're selling them the vision.
Right.
You're saying, here's the vision. The vision is we're going to build this company. We're going to be financially successful, financially stable, financially secure. And you're giving that vision, and people follow vision. Right. And so rather than just saying, bless God, this is the way it's going to be, you're my family, and you just bear with it, you're selling the vision. I like that.
Right, absolutely. You have to.
Good. Well, from a pragmatic standpoint, you talked about your wife kept them up for half an hour, and what other sort of measures do you take to try and keep? First of all, how many hours a day do you typically work?
That's really depends because I'll sit here and work all day. I'll go 10, 11 hours here, and then I'll go home and everybody thinks, oh, you get home, you're off the clock. Well, that's not the case at all. You go home and you run through things, draw designs out, you end up posting pictures on Facebook just so customers can follow their projects, which is another huge thing, is just a constant contact with all your customers. Don't let your customers die on the vine. You gotta keep that phone call, a text, anything, just to let them know you're thinking about it. I just had a customer go down for surgery, and when he was down for surgery, I every morning just a couple minutes to send them a text. Hey, how's it going? How you doing? We have customers that stop by the shop all the time. They feel like this is almost a coffee shop they can hang out in, which actually can inhibit your work day during the day. But at the same time, my customers are so comfortable here that they just love coming around, and that's something that I love to provide for my customers.
That's good. Hey, we've got a bunch of other questions I want to talk to David about too, but I want to encourage our viewers that are watching here. If you've got a question for David, I mean, he's 8 months into a startup. He's got a shop. You may not even be interested in duck boats, although I can't imagine that. But you may not. And if you have any questions about it, obviously he's got a business mind. You talk about converting those leads to sales, and he's talking about customer service. I want to talk about that again. But feel free to ask questions. Type in the chat box over here. You see it's reversed. That's hard to do, man. Yeah. That's practice right there.
Plugging my OCD.
Yeah. See, the screen's flipped for us, so it's bothering David. He likes things to be precise. But feel free to type in the chat box. Just say hi or type a question down. You can click on question, and we'd be happy to answer and field any questions that you have. Let me ask you this, David. What is the biggest lesson in 8 months of running this company? What is the biggest lesson you've learned about customer service?
Customer service, doesn't matter how bad you screw something up. If you cut a customer going clean in half, you know you can fix it, but it's going to delay you. It's going to cause you to not be on time with that project. The worst thing you can do is not inform that customer. It's simple. It's constant contact. A text, a call, 5 minutes of your time. It does not take a lot of time. Stay in contact. I had a customer who literally, his build just went bad, and we had to redo a bunch of stuff on his boat. He said to me, and I can't remember the words exactly, although they did help me out at the time. He said to me that, you know, if it wasn't for your customer service, the way you stay in contact, and I always know what's going on, I would go have somebody else do this work. But because I know where you're at, what you're doing, it's just, and the mistake was made, we put too big of an engine on too small of a boat. The metal wasn't thick enough to handle, so the boat kind of started doing this number where the engine's, you know, bifold in the boat. Sure. So it causes a big issue. That's something that's really hard to foresee. A lot of those pre-manufactured boats are really cheap, really thin metal. When that happened, you know, he's like, oh, you're supposed to know this stuff. And, you know, granted, that's my mistake. And, you know, another thing you never want to do is look a customer in the face and tell them it's not your fault. If you made a mistake, you have to man up to that. If you don't, that customer's going to see you as a 12-year-old kid who doesn't want to tell his mom it's his hand in the cookie jar, well, his hand's in the cookie jar. If you get that kind of persona going with your customers, they're not going to trust you. They're not going to bring their friends to you. They're not going to build that relationship that's necessary. When it comes to customer service, stay in contact and do not look at a customer ever as a dollar sign. If you look at a customer as a dollar sign, you might as well see dollar signs running away. If you look at that customer as a best friend, somebody you want to bring, have coffee with, you know, you want to stand shoulder to shoulder and shoot shotguns with out of a duck boat. And I know that sounds so cliche because that's exactly what we do. But what happens is you build a relationship. And then it doesn't matter what small mistakes come up or what complications they run into, that person's going to come to you no matter what. We have 18 return boats from last year. 18 return boats. That means we've already done the work on a boat. They're completely happy. They brought us more work. And as a startup company, to have that revolving door with existing customers is huge. Everybody covets kind of that revolving door. And to be able to establish that.
And repeat customers.
Yes, constant contact, always let them know what's going on, and build the relationship, don't build the customer.
Yeah, that's huge. You know, I like what that's gold there when you talk about, I mean, you do project work, right? And I do project work too. I'm a software developer, so I know that there's one thing that's certain when it comes to projects. Some projects will be late.
Yep.
You know, it doesn't really matter. Things happen. Things come up. Life happens. We're talking reality. And what you're talking about is making sure that they understand that it's going to be late. And I also like what you said about owning your mistakes.
Own your mistakes.
Carol's actually asking a question that I really want to know the answer to, so I'm going to pop it up here. And she's asking, does your age ever affect how people treat you starting your own business? Because you're a young man, right?
Yeah. It really does, and you'll find it more with the people who are, ironically, around your own age. They don't trust you. But you got a mature person, walks through that door, knows how to read people. They look right at me. They know. They see what I'm doing here. They know, look, this guy can do what he says he can do. Yeah. There's an instant trust there. But then you get that young guy who's like, well, you're no older than me. How can you know this much? That's where it's ironic, but it's the younger generation that has the less amount of trust. And it's you know, maybe that's just our generation these days, but that is what it is. But yeah, it absolutely affects it. But like I said, just more the younger generation.
So how do you overcome that? I mean, is it?
Oh, it's simple. I just point at a boat, let them stand in it, and kind of prove some of the concepts that I'm telling them through a little bit of. Don't just fill your customers with a bunch of useless information. Give them something they can glean from. For instance, why are there ribs on the bottom of a boat that you won't buy from Alumacraft? That's because the company wanted to use thinner metal and get away with it. Those are simply there to structure cheaper materials to make that boat run. Now, I make a perfectly flat bottom boat. People are like, well, how does it go straight down the water? That is not, the keel does not drive a boat down the water in the classic sense that everybody thinks it does. Now, if you put a fin in the water, That will control your direction. That's fine. Those little keels do nothing but inhibit the amount of water that can smoothly go over the surface of that boat. They actually get in the way. It's a design flaw made to make somebody else more money. That's not what we do here. Well, I bring a product up like that, and that customer then goes, okay, this kid does know his stuff. Then all of a sudden, I get that trust factor up.
That's good. And I was totally geeking out on all the technical details, and most of our people watching are like, I don't know anything about boats. But the point is, and I think it's a powerful point, the point is that you know your product, right? You've got a strong knowledge, and you're willing to share that knowledge with your customers.
Right, it's not all trade secrets. You're going to make way more friends. You're going to catch more bees with honey than you would with anything else. It's all about giving them something they can glean from, no matter what it is. Those cliche sayings are a dime a dozen, but there's so much truth in some of them. It's not even funny. If you show the customers that you're interested in who they are, what they want, and you're willing to inform them and bring them to a higher knowledge point, you're going to do way better than if you just look at them as a dollar sign. Yeah. You just simply can't do that.
That's good. And I like what Jeff said. Jeff's from Louisiana, and he says he's 47, but he looks like he's in his 30s. And so sometimes people don't respect him until they, understand that he knows what he's doing. And Jeff knows what he's doing. He's a smart guy. Right. I appreciate, those videos you sent me yesterday, Jeff. I haven't seen them all yet, but I looked at the first one. I appreciate you sharing that with us. I'm gonna ask another question that's gonna segue to something, because I was actually surprised. I didn't have any idea, but there's actually another extra special guest that's here today, which is David's dad. And he's pastor in International Falls, Minnesota, which is the ice box of the U.S. So he's a hero and a groundbreaker, in my opinion. And we're going to have him on in just a second. But let me ask you this, David. How did you like develop this entrepreneurial spirit? Because I know, and you're like me. We're constantly thinking of ways to like start money or start businesses and make revenue streams and make an impact and change people's lives, for lack of a better word.
Right. It comes from I've been working full time since I can even remember. It's just always been working hard with my hands and knowing that there's more there than, I wake up in the morning and you look at the everybody else and everybody else has things that you want. Well, the only way to get to that point is to break ground somewhere and make it to make a way for yourself. Don't rely on some other company. If you have a career and you want to go with another company, I'm not bashing that. There's money there and there's security there. But where there's, a great guy once said that, and I can't remember his name, but he said, where there's security, there's also a lack of the ability to succeed. What he meant by that is the more risk you take, the more reward. And he said it kind of in backward, because if you don't ever step off that ledge, if you don't ever, as Peter did, step into the water and walk towards Jesus, you're never going to have the faith to know that you can do something. When you do something, you take that faith on yourself and you say, all right, God, we're going to try this. We're going to step out here and we're going to do this. It is difficult. It is stressful. It's not all, roses and tulips. But once you get to a point where it starts to go, I have people looking at the company as an investment standpoint. And this is something that I conjured up only a year ago. And it's already to a point where I have people wanting to be a part of it who have much more money than I do. And the reason that is because I found a niche in the market that needed to be filled. It just happened to line up with my passions. And then on top of it, I have the talent to build and to do all that. So if you put all those three aspects together, you have a gold mine if you do it right. And it's just all about trying to dig in and put the time in to get to that point to where you have that success. We're not there yet. I'm not sitting here acting like, I've got $1 million. In fact, the tranny just went out of my truck. The van is broken down. I don't even have a running vehicle as of today, but it's just those struggles that you can sit down and focus on that, or you can have your dad in from High Falls, have him drive you to work, and use some of him to help you get your work going. It's all about leaning on other people to get things going. But there's a lot of tough stuff ahead, but as long as you keep persevering, it's the ones that get back up that succeed.
I want to circle back on that in just a minute and talk about some of the challenges and the reality of them. I mean, your tranny's out, your van's broke, living broke for weeks at a time, all those things that a lot of times people don't think about when they're talking about starting business. But you want to sit down here for a second? I'm going to ask you a couple questions if you don't mind. This is Scott Fuller and David's dad, and he's actually been involved. Let me jump behind you so folks can see me. And he's actually been involved. You've been involved in ministry for over 25 years now, right? And you're doing the work up in International Falls, and that to me says pioneering spirit. And just before the show, you were sharing with me some of the endeavors that you're launching out into from an entrepreneurial standpoint. You want to just share a little bit about some of that?
Well, even if you get to my age, I don't ever lose your dreams. People without a vision, they die. You take a look at life, and like David was saying, a lot of things go bad in life. You know what? I think I'm pretty old. There's no reason to say my age, but I've lived life long enough to know that life's full of failures. And people always think that Jesus is there to make them succeed. No, Jesus is there to be with you in your failures. You might fail all the time, and that might be your nature because you don't make the right decisions all the time. Jesus is there to pull you out of your bad decisions. He's there to be with you in your bad decisions. That's all. I mean, if you've got Jesus and you're focused on Him, He's in the center of what you're doing, you'll be all right. It's like me. I'm going to start an inn up in International Falls up there, where we can once a month bring a Pentecostal couple up there, and they can spend some time, and we'll get a little fellowship, because we don't get none. We don't get none at all. Most of our kids, all of our church pretty much has grown up and moved to the cities for more work. So I normally sit in church with one couple, sometimes a visitor, but that's about it. Do I feel like I failed? No. I've got a lot of people. I got a young couple in Colorado. I've got a few in Interpro. We've got people all over that live for God. And it's not success, is just making sure that whatever you do, no matter if it's a business or your life with God, as long as you're trying,
It's a powerful word. I appreciate you sharing that. And I think about, like I said, the pioneering spirit that you have, and the end that you're talking about. You're building that. I mean, it's a new endeavor. It's something that you feel passion for, and so you're going after that. You're chasing your dreams. Do you consider yourself a dreamer?
Oh, yeah, that's where David gets it.
That's kind of where I was getting to on this.
Yeah, but he's maybe even a little more exuberant than I am.
Yeah. I can't read the comments from way back there because I don't have my contacts in. Exactly. This is actually a question. I'm going to ask you this first, David. Carol's asking, and we talked about challenges. How you doing, man? We talked about some of the challenges that you face from a financial standpoint, from things breaking, from whatever happens. Do you ever feel like quitting? Let me ask you this first, David. Do you ever feel like quitting, like throwing in the towel? Do you ever have those days?
I think we all do. It doesn't matter what you're doing, even if you're a sit-down job where you're getting a paycheck every once a week. It's all about the sand in your shoes. There was a guy who did a march. He ran across in half the country. And at the end of it, the media, they were doing an interview, and they asked him, what happened? He said, it wasn't tripping and breaking my ankle. It wasn't, some of the major things that happened, because you plan for those things. You learn to accept those things. It was the sand in his shoe. That was the biggest problem. It's the smallest things. It doesn't matter what job you're in. There's going to be times where it's just like, I don't want to go in anymore. And that's where you just have to tap into your faith. You got to do some praying about it. And you got to know you're on the right path. And if you are, it'll be blessed. And you just got to continue to struggle through it. It's not about, saying there's a world of people out there who said, I feel like quitting. You don't know their names. You have no idea what they did. But then there's people like Steve Jobs. He didn't quit when it was hard. He started in his garage many years ago. Now we're sitting here talking on one of his devices, and he's left a legacy for his family. You got to think about, if you quit, there's a guaranteed failure. If you strive through the pain and through all the stuff that happens, you wind up with the success in the end. Even if it's a little success. We've already had many successes, and I've only been in business for about a year now. And it's these little successes that you have to cling to. Stop focusing on the little things. And I know it doesn't sound like a little thing, but the tranny going on the truck. I'm still here working. The stuff that needs to be done in the van. Again, I'm still here. It's you just don't focus on that. You focus on the successes, like the boat that's sitting behind me that we knocked out. Now we're a week ahead of time on this boat. It's all about what you're focusing on. If you're going to keep well, it's just like flying a plane. If you're going to keep going up, you're going to keep climbing altitude, you're looking up. If you start looking at the ground, you're going to wind up on the ground. It's as simple as that.
Where your focus is where you go. Now, Brother Fuller, you're pastoring, and I'm sure that you've had successes and you've had failures, and of course you're an entrepreneur. You've built businesses and you've done things as a business owner. How have you handled failure in the past?
Well, the biggest thing is having somebody there to share your failures with. And of course, Jesus is number one. And the other one is your wife. As long as you talk to her about things going on. Typically, as long as you got a wife that's willing to go with you in your failures. I mean, even this last project we're entering into, we're building an inn, if you will. She says, we're there to do it together. You're my companion. We're going to do it together. We'll either fail together or we'll succeed together. And that's the whole thing. It's like that when your life with Christ, like I was talking about. God doesn't want you to fail. I mean, you got all the information you need to succeed as far as the business. I mean, you got the Bible, you got the prayer. So you got everything that can take you into an area of succeeding. Yeah. So that's all up to you and how you want to do that. But in your failures, if something doesn't go right, it's okay. God expects you to fail. I mean, if you look at the biblical point of view, and nobody lived forever. Everybody ended up having a bad situation. Take a look at all the apostles. They didn't die that quite the way they wanted to. Right. And life just happens. So that's all. You got to go all in. Make sure God's your center, and just make the wise decisions you do. And you get to live and make sure there's don't go out there build widgets or something. You got no background. You got to look. Got to have something.
I like that. Hey, so let me ask you this: have either of you, and I know both of your wives, and you're both wonderful, godly, understanding women. But have you ever had your wife just look at you and go, "Are you out of your mind?" Has that ever happened?
Not in those words, but just not. Our background that pushed us into starting what we started is, I don't want to say I was forced to, because it was a passion that made me start, but it was more of it's hard to explain. We just kept running into things, and I wasn't succeeding in other areas until I started this. Success wasn't even happening. But when my wife saw
so
that,
you started some other things, they were not successful.
Right, and I'm still running other things. They're just not producing yet.
Right.
But the lack of success, my wife's just like, well, why do you keep doing it? Why do you keep, what do you do? And I had to tell her, look, I can either quit or I can learn from what I did wrong the first time and move on from that. I think a lot of people fail to understand that the reason you trip and fall is to learn to pick your foot up higher the next time. When it comes to an ice house we just built, we had some things go wrong with the layout of the studding for the vertical studs in the walls. We had a complication with that caused the sheeting to be all off. It's very complicated, but whatever. We figured out a way that now, not only did I learn how not to do it, I learned how to do it this next time and cut my time down. And my wife maintains that view that no matter how bad things will get, I'll be able to figure my way out of it. And with the help of the Lord, clearly, that I will one day be able to be making these things in such a manner that I'm not still making these mistakes, because it's something that you gotta move forward from. Just never forget that when you trip over something, it's not to knock you down, it's to teach you how to pick your foot up higher.
That's good. Pacey agrees with you. Pacey's from Austin, Texas. That's excellent insight. We're about to wrap up. Can you just spend a few? You were telling me about. Let me jump on the screen here, but you were telling me about. No, you're okay. Stay there. You were telling me about a project that you're about to start, and I think our viewers would love to hear about that. Can you just tell us a little bit about that, the design that you're working on, and what you're going to do? That sounds to me, I mean, that's an amazing, inspiring thing. Can you tell us about
Which one is that?
The boat that you're building.
So we have an awesome sales guy who is going around drumming up new ways to do things, and he knows I have a big passion for veterans and for. I got a buddy who's a vet, so basically I have a background in trying to support our veterans, and he got in touch with the Wounded Warrior Clan, and we're actually going to build a boat for a Wounded Warrior program with a gate in the front so that a wounded warrior, before going off to serve his country and sacrifice maybe the ability to use his legs or arms or both, he was a duck hunter, and he wants to come back home and he wants to do some duck hunting. The way I can serve that man for his sacrifice is to build a boat for him and get him out there and be able to shoot a duck out of a boat that I built so that he can get his wheelchair out there and he can enjoy something that he used to enjoy before he went and gave the greatest sacrifice for our country. And it's incredible to be able to be a part of something where we're going to build something to better how do you say, somebody else's life who gave a lot for you. He gave that not in return, not looking for a return, but it's always more blessed to give than to receive, and I just want to give more back to those men.
That's awesome. Hey, I want to thank everybody for joining us on the broadcast today, and sorry I'm going to block you out, Pastor, but thanks everybody for being on here today. I want to thank especially our guests, David and Scott Fuller. Great guys, good friends of mine, and they've been awesome on this show. I'm actually going to put on the welding mask now, okay, because I'm going to go weld some stuff on this boat. Okay, I might not. David won't let me, but I'm going to at least put the thing on. God bless you all. Thanks for joining us here today. Don't forget to join us tomorrow, 11 o'clock Eastern Time. We'll be talking about family and relationships. Of course, you can always see the archives at, oh, hey, look at here. Ron and Joy are on here. I got to put them all the way from Connecticut.
Ron and Joy are on there, huh?
Awesome. Hey, and check out all the archives, fuelforsuccess.tv. God bless you all. Have a great day.